And a very good evening. It is 10 to 6 on Saturday, the 8th of August, and welcome to our next live stream in our lockdown music revival online sessions. This is Christopher Daigen coming to you from my home in Pietermaritzburg, inviting you to join us in 10 minutes time at 6 o'clock exactly, when we'll be starting with the music and a wonderful selection of music in tonight's In Concert, a selection of classical pieces. This is our live stream session number 39. We had a few mishaps on Wednesday and then managed to have an extra session on Thursday, which was our In Concert, our piano hour performance of requests, which went off very well. Very exciting for us, despite the fact that there was a slight delay by 24 hours, but very exciting because, in fact, it was the first session that uses all our own equipment for the many people who have been supporting us, as well as a number of donors, 3 donors who've been very generous with their support. We have been able to purchase a setup of studio equipment, and so Thursday night was the very first time we managed to do that. There have been a few teething problems, and we think that we have solved this issue with the sync between the sound and the video. It's a very complicated situation and a little bit beyond me. Thanks to Kevin Liddell once again for working so incredibly hard to keep all this going, and my partner Barry, who's become an expert on everything related to live streaming and the various equipments involved. So tonight's program, as I said, In Concert, a selection of classical music. I'll be playing music for you this evening by the composers Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart, Ludwig van Beethoven, Maurice Ravel, Franz Schubert, and Frédéric Chopin. I think a very poetic selection. I'll be telling you a few details about the pieces as we go through. But just to, as I said earlier, to thank everyone again, particularly the 3 donors who have really been very generous with their support, as well as to everyone who has bought a ticket or given a monthly donation or an occasional amount to support this project. This obviously is, the entire operation does cost, and it is going out to a number of people, and it is meaning a huge amount to a number of people around the world, but particularly locally. And I'm very aware of the impact and the possibility that it has to uplift, encourage, nourish, nurture, and soothe people for just 2 hours a week. And how wonderful is that we are able to bring this to you via the wonderful technology and the magic of the World Wide Web. It really is an incredible opportunity to adventure into music and our concert situation in a new way. There have been a number of requests. It's always very interesting, as I say, and requests that I've received. Many of the requests that I played on last Wednesday's program, as well as a number of new pieces that have come in. And so we will be having another request session probably in 2 or 3 weeks' time for the Wednesday program. So if there's a piece of music that you would like me to play, or something that I have played that you really were very fond of, or you thought was a great hit that you would like to hear, please do send those questions through, and request through at least. And if you have any questions, then please do send that, and I'll try and answer them as best as I can. I've received another question today about pedaling, and the question was, well, why are there 3 pedals on the piano, and what are they used for? Well, in fact, we've got a little surprise for you in regard to that question tonight, where you're going to see them in action. I'm not going to say too much about it now, but certainly I'm going to answer that question fully on Wednesday. Wednesday's section is a very exciting and a very unusual, and I think very instrumental might be the right word. It's going to be a very interesting opportunity for me to try and kind of elucidate, might be the right word, a number of ideas around the various concepts and terms that I'm using. For instance, I always talk about a key. I say this piece of music is in F sharp major or G minor, and it's an adagio or an allegro, and it's from a sonata or a concerto, and Beethoven was this time and Schubert was that period and century. And so I'm going to try and do in 1 hour and give you a overall view, a sort of bird's eye view of all these ideas about scales and keys and tempi, etc., etc. So we can have an understanding. I can hopefully give you an understanding or a greater viewpoint of all the possibilities involved and what these things actually mean. It's a session that will be on Wednesday, I said, at 6 p.m. called What Are We Listening To? So I hope you can join us for that. That's going to be a very interesting session. And then next week, Saturday, I'll be playing another classical program that is built around a number of very interesting stories. It is obviously a more music-orientated performance rather than chat or talking, but the stories and the interesting ideas behind the piece are always what so many people are drawn by and really brings the music alive. I've compiled a program that really focuses principally around the stories and it illustrated or uses a number of pieces of music rather than the other way around. So they're grouped into various themes like ideas of travel or a very unique little term or anecdote idea that I came up with as in exclamation marks as, did they really say that or did that really happen? Because it's actually quite surprising what did happen sometimes and how people did react to each other. The composers reacted to each other and things that might have happened in their various time periods and dealings with each other. So that will be next Saturday. As I said, if you are able to support us, please do visit our website. At our website is a donation page, and that will provide you with a number of links to various platforms, including Quicket. Kevin will be able to bring up the magic QR code on the bottom right-hand side of the screen. It will appear from time to time during the evening. And if you're watching on a TV or a laptop and you point your cell phone camera at that, it will automatically take you to a donation page at Quicket. Otherwise, if you are able to support us with a bank transfer or a ticket purchase at EFT, by EFT, please do visit our website and all the banking details are there. We're really grateful for every ticket purchased and every support that we have received. And that's the one thing I have to admit I've been falling behind of, or we're falling behind with, in that I have not been able to keep up with sending messages and WhatsApps and emails to every single person as much as I can ascertain their details from their support, banking details, reference, etc., to thank everyone. So I am going to be working on that this week quite extensively, just to be in touch, just to thank everyone individually who have been supporting us, because it has meant an incredible amount to me, not only to keep working and to keep earning a living in this very difficult environment, but also to everyone involved in the project and everyone who is enjoying the project and having the opportunity to enjoy the music. I seem to be talking an awful lot this evening. There seems to be a lot to say. So this evening's music, as I said, we're going to be starting, I think, in 30 seconds or so. Tonight's performance in concert. This is our 39th live stream. It's amazing how these all add up, and it's been very interesting for me to look at our YouTube channel, because YouTube and Vimeo to a lesser degree, but YouTube mostly, very accessible, and you can see all of the live streams that we've done. I think there are only a few missing right in the beginning, which were on Facebook only. And it's really incredible to see how the development of the project has taken place, the technical accomplishment, the technical detail, the cameras and the equipment has been upgraded and changed, and we've become quite proficient at the whole idea, I think, too. And it's very interesting to see how we can learn and watch from each session and learn to see what we can do better each time. So as I said, for those of you just joining us, it is 6 p.m. and thank you for coming along. I hope you're going to enjoy the session of music in the next hour. This is our second live stream where we are using all our own equipment. We're still being assisted by Kevin Liddell of Big Beat, who's running the operation. And a number of cameras, lights in action. Off we go with somewhat magnificent music. I'm going to start this program this evening with a sonata by Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart, at least the first movement from the sonata in D major K311. The K number referring to the catalog number, and if you'd like to know more about that, I'll be able to tell you on Wednesday. But Mozart wrote 3 sonatas during in a period between his years in Mannheim and Paris, and he published them together as a group. I'm playing the first movement from the sonata in D major, which is incredibly exuberant. I've chosen it as a great opener for the program. It's got great exuberance, great energy, a kind of Italianate liveliness to it, which comes through. And it's in the key of D major, which has a royal resplendence to it very often, and certainly in this case, that is no exception. Mozart at this time is 22 years old, and it's a very positive and a very forthright mood that he projects in the music. And I think it's very interesting to consider how a young composer, any young composer who's trying to make his mark, is really trying to say something quite positive and trying to be very precise and quite assertive to really stamp his personality on his music. But however, with Mozart's case, we have to always think back and remember that Mozart was really fated as a child and a celebrated young musician as a 5-year-old. I mean, his father took Mozart and his sister on a 3-year-long trip around Europe where they played for all the major courts. And in fact, in one period, the father accumulated an amount of money from these appearances, sometimes 2 or 3 court appearances in a day, accumulated enough money in 2 weeks that would have equaled his salary for 2 years. So Mozart, a great celebrity as a child, when he's suddenly a little bit older and now he's trying to make his mark as a composer as a young man, people are not so interested. He's no longer this charming, cute, baby-faced 5-year-old. He's just another composer and trying to produce work of great interest and trying to produce something that is not maybe to everyone's taste. But as I say, no hint of caution and no hint of any sadness or sorrow or doubt in this piece. The sonata in D major is very forthright, very direct, and very full of sunny happiness, and I'm going to play this for you now. This is the first movement from the sonata in D major, K3, 11 by Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart. then the first movement, the opening movement from the sonata in D major by Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart. Opened our program this evening in concert with myself, Christopher Daigen, coming to you from my home studio in Pietermaritzburg. It's been a very warm, very dry day today, and I think I need a glass of water, so I'm going to come back. Just make yourselves at home, don't go away. I'm going to be back in a second. I just need something to wet my palate, you might say. Don't move. And we're back in the room. Of course, today I would be wearing my special concert shoes, so you can hear me clop, clop, clopping across the floor. I'm sure Kevin by now has shown you the extra shoe angle, so we've got a third camera operating this evening to see what's going on with my very fancy. If Kevin, if you haven't, have you got them there? Let's see the fancy shoes, fancy red shoes. They look great on stage. I'm not sure if they look great here, but they look great on stage. They're very useful. Got to have shoes. I'm moving on to a poetic, wonderful piece of music by the composer Ludwig van Beethoven for this evening. And it's a very exciting piece. I'm feeling a little bit nervous, actually. It's a very daunting piece of music to play for various reasons. The title of it, Les Adieux, or the Farewell Sonata, is a title that Beethoven gave to the music. Now, this is not often something I say, because whenever I talk about the Moonlight or the Appassionata, the Waldstein, these are all titles that were given to these pieces of music that had to do with the dedicatees, or just a name, for instance, like the Waldstein, that actually is attached to the music. But in this case, Beethoven called the music Les Adieux, the farewell. And in fact, in the opening notes of the music, he wrote in 3 syllables, Lebewohl, or farewell, over those 3 notes. And the reason that this is all about is a very interesting idea, because it is, in fact, a piece of what we'd call program music, or a piece of music that tells a story. And it's a very interesting story and a very interesting way in which he conveys the emotions and the ideas in the music. At this point, Beethoven's good friend and patron, the Archduke Rudolf, had to leave the city of Vienna because of the approaching Napoleonic armies who were coming, and the authorities, the Archduke obviously was worried about his safety, so he had to flee the city, and Beethoven was very upset about this. The Archduke was not only a good friend and patron, but also the dedicatee of a number of Beethoven's great works, the Archduke Trio, Opus 97, the 5th Piano Concerto, known as the Emperor, as well as the Missa Solemnis and the Last Violin Sonata. So this was a very important figure in Beethoven's life, and I think Beethoven and the Archduke had a very close personal relationship as well. So in the opening moments of this piece, the Lebewohl, or that sound, those 3 notes or those 3 chords there, refer apparently to the sounding of the call, the horn call, to sound that the Archduke's carriage is now departing, it is now leaving. And Beethoven repeats those 3 notes. You'll hear them repeatedly throughout the opening music. The opening movement is a slow introduction, full of anxiety and full of careful and cautious pain, almost, you might say, before the music erupts into these turbulent moments where those 3 notes are repeated again and again and again, and there's a great sense of anxiety conveyed. So the Archduke is leaving, and when someone is leaving, it's, I can't believe this is happening, I'm coming to terms with it. No, I can't believe this is happening, I'm coming to terms with it. It's anxiety, these repeated waves of anxiety and waves of caution. The music explodes and calms down and explodes and calms down and explodes and calms down again and again and again. And in the opening or the last moments of the first movement, very graphically, you might say it's a very graphic representation, the music dies away, becomes very quiet and very soft, and these very gentle scale patterns get quieter and quieter, possibly said to be depicting the Archduke's carriage disappearing into the horizon. And that final horn call disappears into the silence. The second movement is Beethoven marks in the music the fact that the Archduke is not there. There is an absence, and there's a great deal of sense of loss, a great deal of pain and sorrow, moments of reflection, of happiness and joy before the sorrow takes over. These emotions mix at very quick points, back and forward, until magically it leads directly into the third movement, which is the return. And at a very subtle way, the mood changes and there's great exuberance and excitement, and the Archduke is coming back, the Archduke arrives. There's an embrace, so you might say a musical embrace. There seems to be a lot of happiness, real let's go and drink some beers together and really have a good time. And so the music ends on this exuberant, joyful note of accomplishment, finality, as the two men, you might say that even at the moment, in the final moments, I think there's almost a kind of embrace and a kind of settle of their relationship being unified once again. So it's a very harmonious end to the piece of music. So, as I say, it's unique in that it's this program in Beethoven's music that is not often found, but certainly very clearly written in the music, in the titles that Beethoven includes in these three movements. Now, one of the things that I'm often asked about is in terms of playing from memory, and I know this piece pretty well. But what I decided to play it about 2.5, 3 weeks ago, and I've been working on it, and I found it's just an interesting point. In fact, the more that I've worked on it again, because I've worked on this piece for the past 30 years or so, on and off, is that even though I knew the piece quite well, and I was quite comfortable with my memory with it, I found that I've been wanting to change a few things, and it's a bit like a house of cards. When I've changed a few ideas and a few approaches, the memory issue then starts to become a little bit different because my thought patterns in the moment are starting to change. So I am going to use the score. I'm going to use my printed book score this evening rather than the iPad because it's got so many details in it that I'd like to have. I do prefer to play from memory. It does help me a great deal in terms of really engaging with the music, I think, in a more honest and a more real way. But unfortunately, that is a compromise I'm going to make this evening just for safety's sake. So this is the Sonata Opus 81A. The reason that there is an A to it, apparently, is when Beethoven published the piece, another publisher in another country published a second piece of music, I think it was a string quintet or sextet, also as an 81. So suddenly he had two Opus 81s. So the sonata has become Opus 81A and the string item Opus 81B, which is rather unusual. But it's a very magnificent work full of excitement and real Beethoven poetry and passion. exuberant music there from Ludwig van Beethoven, one of the latest sonatas, the Opus 81A, the sonata Les Adieux, inspired by and written as an account on the departure of his very good friend and patron, the Archduke Rudolf, who left Vienna after the Napoleonic armies were coming to invade. So the Archduke fled. Beethoven, being very distraught and upset and anxious about the Archduke's safety, wrote that piece of music in 3 movements: the anxiety of him leaving, the sorrow of him being absent, and the exuberant beer-drinking finale of getting back together. What a wonderful piece of music. I'm always fascinated by the medium, the idea of working through this remote environment of cameras and microphones, because a piece of music like that has such incredible presence and energy in it that it's always very strange to play to an empty room, and it's always very strange to play to a small empty room. It's a kind of music that even it has an intimate character to it, and is one of the later Beethoven works, which generally have a more intimate and often a quite refined and a more finer nature to them. It still needs, I feel, a big concert space. So I hope that the microphones coped with the rather brilliant sounds there and the brilliant exuberance of the music. Wonderful music in the sonata Les Adieux. I'm going to continue with a selection of music by Ravel and Schubert, and then ending with Chopin for this evening's program. Normally, one plays a program like this, classical program, generally presented in a chronological order. So to play Ravel and then Schubert and Chopin seems a bit odd, but it's just the way I'm going to do it. It seems to me to be the way it's going to work, and it works quite well. After that exuberance and brilliance of Mozart and Beethoven, the Ravel, which I'm going to play for you, is from a selection of 5 pieces called Miroir. I've played 2 or 3 of them before, and this is the final piece, The Valley of the Bells. And in this movement, Ravel really conjures up something quite extraordinary. Apart from the obvious bell sounds, the sweet tones of bells across a valley or across the ocean, even Ocean Bay, you might say, even, there's a great sense of layering, of deep bells, smaller bells, distant bells, present bells, and at the same time a very plaintive atmosphere and a very unique, refined quality. Ravel always has such ravishing sounds, ravishing chords and harmonies that he uses. It's really quite extraordinary. And after that, then I will go into a very refined and magnificent piece of music by Franz Schubert from his first set of impromptus, Opus 90, the first set that he wrote, impromptus being music that was really about being spontaneous. And I think the idea about it, particularly in these pieces that Schubert wrote, were that they had to depict or somehow embody a notion that the performer, the pianist, is really creating the music on the spur of the moment. And I think in this case, even though the performer might appear to be a kind of medium to where this music is coming through them, the mood that passes through you, a beautiful line by the poet Browning, the mood that passes through you. And I think that's a very unique atmosphere and color and idea with this piece of music. The third impromptu, which I'll play for you in G flat, very well-known composition, which has a very hymn-like, serene quality. It really is an extraordinary and unique piece of music. So I hope you enjoy this. Ravel's Valley of the Bells, followed by the third impromptu from the first set, in G flat major by Franz Schubert. dramatic music indeed. I decided just to play on and not announce that piece of music. The first of two Chopin pieces I'll be ending the program with tonight. That was what you've just heard, the Nocturne in C minor, opus 48. I played a selection of nocturnes last Saturday, and as you heard, that's a very dramatic piece. And last Saturday I was trying to create a mood of calm, bliss and sensitivity. And I thought, well, that mood is not going to be quite fitting. It's going to be broken by the intensity of the drama, a funereal procession, a hymn from the heavens, and an eruption, and Chopin ending that repeat of that theme with incredible exuberance and agitation, you might say. Quite an extraordinary piece of music. Before that, you heard the beautiful hymn-like qualities of the Impromptu in G-flat by Franz Schubert, and to start that selection of three pieces which I played for you this evening, Ravel's Valet de Cloche, or Valley of the Bells, from Miroir. I hope you enjoyed that juxtaposition of the very ornate, perfumed harmonies of Ravel going into the very pure textures and pure harmonies of Schubert. I thought it's always very nice to swap things around into a different element and hear how one composer can sound completely different after you've heard something else. It's like being able to eat your dessert after your cheese or before your cheese, whichever way you feel like having it. I never know. I believe both are quite apparent. The correct way to do it. I'm going to end off this evening's program. We are running slightly over time, but I'm going to end off with an exuberant positive note with Chopin's Polonaise in A major, not the A flat Polonaise, the heroic Polonaise, but the A major Polonaise, opus 40, sometimes known as the military Polonaise, because of its very brilliant and outgoing rhythm. And also in the middle section, you have this bugle call, almost like a call to arms. And isn't that great programming, that it takes us back to the horn call of Beethoven's Stagecoach, or the Postcoach as it left in the beginning of the... We're having more horn calls and more trumpet calls in Chopin's Polonaise to end off. So apparently 25 years of programming concerts has actually given me a good instinct for putting these things together. Chopin's Polonaise in A major to end off tonight's program. Polonaise in A major, Chopin's call to arms to his fellow Polish people to rise up and proudly take up arms and defend their rights and defend their nation. It's a universal sentiment. I'm being plagued by a moth who's, I think, come out of the piano at the beginning of the concert and is still flying around. I'm going to take up arms against that moth shortly because moths and my pianos do not go very well together. They like to eat little bits of it, which are not, it's not welcome. No moths are welcome inside my pianos, unfortunately. But you are welcome. Thank you for coming along this evening. We hope you've enjoyed the selection of music. It's been quite a workout. I'm actually feel like I'm working up a bit of a sweat this evening for the first time. Maybe it's the change of seasons or the heat of August, but very exuberant, very intense, poetic music in tonight's selection, ending there with the Chopin Polonaise. If you are able to support us, if you'd like to buy a ticket or you'd like to support us with these live streams which are going out free on various platforms, please do visit our website. You'll find the link to a number of channels where you can do EFTs or bank or credit card payments, anything like that. If you are able, if you're not, it's not also absolutely fine, but we do appreciate every donation and every ticket purchased, and we hope you are enjoying our selection. So as I said, on Wednesday, very different but quite exciting overview. If you attend Wednesday's lecture, I'm going to try and give you a complete patterned organized, structured introduction to classical music, about the composers and where they fit in various time periods and what the typical ideas of those are, and what keys are about and what scales are about and what A major is and what a concerto, very briefly. But I'm obviously going to be playing a lot and playing complete music to demonstrate, as it is a concert as well. And you'll be able to obviously go back and watch it as many times as you'd like, because like all of our live streams, they are stored at YouTube as well as Vimeo. Thank you for joining us tonight. We look forward to seeing you at one of our performances shortly. Look after yourself and stay well.